lämpimästi tervetuloa Good Hair Day 2021 tapahtumaan. Me ollaan GHD-kollektiivin tiimi, Saida, Akunna ja Paloma, ja halutaan toivottaa teidät sydämemme kyllyydestä mukaan. Hello everyone and welcome to Good Hair Day 2021. We are the Good Hair Day collective team, Saida, Akunna and Paloma, and we are so happy that you are joining with us on this live stream. So let me tell you a little bit about Good Hair Day and why are we actually here today. So Good Hair Day is a collective, a community, as well as a movement, and our aim is to improve Afro-Finns' welfare, as well as raise up Afro-Finnish voices, stories, individuals, as well as always we have this sort of interesting way of looking at the whole anti-racist movement. We have our own take on it. We sort of love to approach it with joy and hope, instead of it always being quite dark. We want to focus on Afro-Finns, and while we focus on Afro-Finns, we do it from 3 different perspectives, which are community, representation, and I forgot. Empowerment. So, sometimes you forget what you're basing your things on. Empowerment as well. And today, the collective has been working since 2016. We had our first annual event, and today we're doing the 6th actual event in a row. And this is super exciting for us because we started out very small, and this whole community and movement has just been growing. Eli me ollaan Good Hair Daystä, ja Good Hair Day-kollektiivi on afrosuomalaisille tarkoitettu kollektiivi, yhteisö, tapahtuma ja liike. Ja me perustetaan kaikki meidän toiminta positiiviselle representaatiolle, voimaantumiselle ja yhteisölle. Ja GHD:llä on vähän erilainen niin kuin tarttumapinta antirasismiin, että me lähestytään sitä ilon ja valon ja toivon kautta. Ja annetaan tilaa afrosuomalaisille äänille, tarinoille, yksilöille ja nostetaan niitä esiin. Meidän koko kollektiivi on ollut olemassa jo 2016 vuodesta, jolloin järjestettiin ensimmäinen päivän kestävä tapahtuma, ja nyt ollaankin sitten jo 6. tapahtumassa, ja tämä yhteisö ja liike vaan kasvaa kasvamistaan joka vuosi, ja ollaan tosi innoissamme, että te olette tullut mukaan tähän meidän Good Hair Day -famiin. Sen lisäksi, että meillä on tämä meidän tapahtuma, niin me tehdään myös tosi paljon muuta. Meidät löytää Instagramista @GHD Helsinki sekä myös Facebookista @GHD Helsinki. Ja siellä myös jaetaan paljon eri tarinoita ja erilaisia yksilöitä ja pystyy seuraamaan myös sitä, mitä muuta me tehdään kuin pelkästään tämä tapahtuma myös sitä kautta. Et siellä me laitetaan paljon viestiä myös siitä.
Yes, kiitos Akunna. Mä jatkan tästä varmaan englanniksi meidän teemasta. So I'm going to continue on in English more about our theme this year. So each year Good Hair Day event focuses on a particular theme. And this year we've chosen hope. And the reason we chose hope was at the end of last year when we started planning our event with our volunteers, we were talking about the past year, how it was heavy with the COVID pandemic, how it was heavy with feeling lonely, even more than usual, missing our families in the wild world, not being able to visit family in Africa or America or wherever it might be. And we also felt with the global Black Lives Movement that there was a lot of issues that were kind of bubbling also up here in Finland, and a lot of questions on anti-racist work and racism in Finland as a whole was being put to the forefront. So we came up with the theme of hope. And some of the things that we really talked about was hope as a community, how we want to define it as an Afro-Finnish community. Hope of normalcy, what would normal life be like? Hope of dreaming of our most perfect Finland that would be the best for us to be in. hope of inclusion, and hope of dreams, careers, and aspirations, and having that freedom to choose a career that you really want and not having to follow some footsteps that you're guided on. And in return, we decided that this year we're going to talk about taking up space. We're talking about the sense of belonging, what that means to our community, and we're also talking about representation in the form of different careers and different representations of Afro-Finns. So looking forward to our upcoming panels today with a whole host of different individuals from our Afro-Finnish community. And for us, Afro-Finnish really means somebody with African descent. So you don't have to be a mixed Finn, you don't have to be an African who has just moved from African continent to Finland. It's anybody who is living in Finland at the moment who has African heritage, who has African roots, who identifies that way somehow. You could be Afro-Brazilian, you could be adopted, you could be mixed Finn with both a Finnish parent and a parent of African heritage. And so something else that we had talked about a lot in the previous years was, is there such a community as Afro-Finnish Swedish? We had a lot of Finnish-Swedish people with African heritage contacting us and asking, is there anybody else who is like me? Is there a community? Are there events? We really want to connect. So this is our first year that we're able to pull off a panel with Afro-Finnish Swedish representatives, and they're actually going to talk about, is that something that they want to coin themselves as? Is that a thing that already exists? Where is it going? So super excited about that. And I think, as Akunna was mentioning a little bit, that as a collective, all our actions are based on a hope for a better future. So we started the event to create a space for people like us coming behind us to feel that there's a space where they're included, a space where they belong, a space where nobody is pinpointing that you stand out of the Finnish norm. We also wanted to bring a stronger sense of community and by that showcase to the whole of Finland, Nordics, and the world that, hey, we exist, we've been here, we're part of the society, and we want to be included. And we want to exist freely without a fear, oppression, or racism in Finland. And for Good Hair Day, we work through joy and hope. So our work is really about representing us how we want to see us. We work through the by us, for us principle, and that means that we choose what we want to showcase and we choose what we want to talk about. And for us, it's celebrating Afro-Finnishness, our history, documenting it, and being a part of the Finnish society as well. And I'd like to end by quoting this poem that became very famous by Amanda Gorman from her book, The Hill We Climb. Let me take a deep breath. When the day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The dawn, then the dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light. If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. So on behalf of myself, welcome to this year's event, and Paloma will be telling us more about what's in store and who's on stage later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saida. That was super powerful. I also kind of went into the zone. I'm going to continue first in Finnish. So today, eli tänään, meillä on todella mielenkiintoisia paneelikeskusteluja lavalla. 4 eri paneelikeskustelua 3 eri kielellä. Aloitetaan päivä tässä kohta puoliin Belonging-paneelikeskustelulla, jonka vetää sitten Takura. Sitten jatketaan siitä. Meille tulee tänne lavalle erilaisia afro-hius- ja kiharahiusten osaajia, oikein niin kuin pioneereja. Eli Afro Hair-keskustelu jatkuu sitten siitä kello 14. Ja sitten kello 15 itse asiassa mennään pienelle tauolle, eli meillä on tunnin tauko siinä, striimi loppuu hetkeksi aikaa, mutta älkää lähtekö vielä sen jälkeen mihinkään, koska jatketaan sitten iltapäiväsessiossa, eli kello 16 meillä on meidän ekaa kertaa itse asiassa täällä GHD:ssa, niin kuin Saida tuossa mainitsi, ruotsiksi on Afro-Finland Svensk paneelikeskustelu ja sitten viimeisenä suomeksi representaatiopaneelikeskustelu. Ja meillä on myös täällä musiikkia, eli Tyson Blue tulee esiintymään meille viimeisenä, ja sitten tullaan vielä Akunnan ja Saidan kanssa tänne lavalle vähän niin kuin yhdistämään tämä koko tapahtuman kierros yhteen, ja puhutaan ajatuksista ja fiiliksistä, mitä täällä on päivän aikana noussut esille. Mä haluaisin myös muistuttaa tosiaan nyt, kun ollaan ihan ensimmäistä kertaa tälleen täysin virtuaalisena, että me ollaan täällä ja meidän ihanat vapaaehtoiset ja tiivistämön työntekijät, ja sitten tietenkin panelistit ja muut vieraat, mutta meillähän ei ole nyt täällä yleisöä muuta kuin te, ihanat ihmiset siellä katsomossa. Kommentoikaa, mutta mä haluan myös muistuttaa meidän niin kuin turvallisemman tilan säännöistä, että ne pätee myös ihan yhtä lailla sinne virtuaalimaailmaan, eli kunnioitetaan toisiamme ja muistetaan, että kenelle tämä tapahtuma on tehty. Eli meille afrosvammalaisille annetaan tilaa ja me ei sallita minkäänlaista syrjintää, ei rasismia, ei muutakaan, niin kunnioitetaan toisiamme ja olkaa siellä kuitenkin niin kuin saa kommentoida ja muuta, että halutaan sellaista aktiivista, interaktiivista niin kuin, kommentointia ja muuta, mutta be respectful to one another. Yes. Nyt tälleen viimeisenä, ellei Akunnalle tai Saidalle ole herännyt tässä vielä muuta, meillä on itse asiassa pieni yllätys teille kaikille katsojille.
I don't know, did you want to say about the program quickly in English as well, since the first part of the session was in English, so just for those viewing outside of Finland. I know there's a couple of you who have contacted us from all over the world that you want to join in, so welcome.
That is for sure. We have viewers all around the world, so I will once again explain the whole program in English so everybody understands. So we will begin our first panel discussion in English, which is called Belonging. And then after that, we will have our Afro hair pioneers come on stage at 2 o'clock to talk about Afro hair and all their knowledge and etc. Then we will have a short 1 hour break at 3 o'clock. After that, we will continue in Swedish with Afro-Finland Svensk panel discussion. And our last panel discussion will be in Finnish, which is called Representaatio. And then, of course, we will have Tyson Blue performing and tying this all together. And then me, Akunna, and Saida will come and discuss the theme and our feelings of this event at the end of the day.
Yeah, and because we are virtually, you can comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, as well as ask questions. If you have any questions during the panels, this is your way of interacting with the panelists, and we will then take the questions to the panelists if you have any. So please, even though we are far away from you physically, do comment, and there can be conversation while the live stream is happening as well, so you can participate in this event as fully as possible.
Exactly. Yes, and the safer space rules, as I mentioned in Finnish, even though we are fully virtual, we want everybody to stay respectful and be mindful of what you comment. We tolerate zero discrimination, zero racism. So yes, just give space to those who this event is meant for, and that means Afro-Finns, of course.
I am so excited for today. I really think this is an excellent program. Mä oon niin innoissani ja meillä on niin mahtava ohjelma tulossa. Ihanaa, että ootte täällä meidän kanssa. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Hey, welcome back everybody. So great to have you with us online from all over Finland, all over the world. We're so excited to have you here. And without further ado, I'm going to move on to the next part of our program, our first discussion. And our panel is on belonging. And I will pass the mic on to you, Takura, and you can lead us through the panel and introduce our lovely visitors today. Awesome.
Thank you very much. Also, on my behalf, I would like to say to everybody who's watching, welcome to Good Hair Day 2021. We're going to be talking about belonging today, which is a very interesting topic, very broad. But I will not go too far. I will let our wonderful members of the panel introduce themselves. Would you like to start?
Hi, everyone. My name is Dorina Owindi, and I'm excited to be here today. I'm actually Kenyan, but I would say that in terms that I'm an Olkoswamalainen, so I was born in Kenya, and used to come during the summers a lot, and I really feel connected to Finnish culture as well as the Afro-Finnish culture, so I'm really excited to be here. And I am a wellness content creator as well, and I'm really excited to be connected with these wonderful people today. Thanks for having me.
Hi, hello. My name is Angel, born and raised in Uganda, but I've lived in Finland since 2014. Yes, I am a performer and model and panelist.
Hi everyone, my name is Fatima Verwijnen. I'm half Somali and half Finnish, so I have strong background in both Finnish culture and in Somali. So great to be here talking about belonging in this context. I'm a diversity consultant and activist and a writer, and I'm so glad to be here with you today.
Hi, I'm Reggie Rusan. I'm from the US. I'm definitely very happy to be here today. Belonging is actually a topic that I like to talk about. Although I'm an IT guy, as a lot of people that do know me know, I like to pull people together because I think we need to create our own tribe, but I'll save that discussion for later.
Excellent. Thank you guys for introducing yourself. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. My name is Takura, by the way. I'm from Tampere, and I'm a Good Hair Day volunteer. And I think we should just go ahead and start with the discussion. I think maybe we'll start with you, Reggie. What does belonging mean to you?
So when I look at belonging, I have a little cheat sheet here, but I go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's to me, it sets this foundation, and really, we don't need to look much further. And belonging is right in the middle of the hierarchy of needs, of love and belonging. And it starts from your physical needs, and I think in Finland, Finland does a really good job taking care of the physical needs and the safety needs. Some of the employment area of safety needs maybe needs a little bit more addressing, but those layers are taken care of. And so what I don't think maybe we do such a good job is for love and belonging and then going to self-esteem and then self-actualization. And I think that needs to be ultimately the goal. But I think, and when people actually got the question, we talked about backstage, was I nervous about today's event? And I'm like, no, I belong here. And I fully believe that I belong in this community. And that, I think, is the most important thing. We need to support each other and to build our own tribe. That gives us a safe base to then go out and create other belonging relationships. And also, we can help people get with their self-esteem and then move to self-actualization. So that's my thoughts.
Amazing. That's a very, very, very nice answer over there. How do you feel about it, Fatima? What does
I think
belonging
that
mean
was
to
very
you?
well put. Like everything about the fact that we in Finland live in a very individualistic culture, which means that one needs to. There's almost like this presence, like this of kind of like you need to do it alone, and if you don't do it alone, you're weak. And I feel like more like in Somali culture, a community is everything. Yeah. If you're alone, no one expects you to do anything alone. So I feel like many of our problems in Finland and in everyday life in this capitalistic world is kind of like we've lost the connection. And I think communities is building, we're reconnecting and we're building those connections back. So it's essential for human well-being.
Excellent. Yeah. Angel?
And to me, belonging means one is around love and like-minded people.
That's great. That's very, very straight to the point. A very
Yes.
concise answer. Thanks for that. And Dorina, how do you feel about?
I feel belonging to me is being able to show up 100% as yourself. being able to speak your truth and not have to play roles, because we live in a country where sometimes when you're showing up, it's like you have to decide which, some people have to decide which part of them is not accepted. So then you have to somehow play a role. And for me, belonging would mean no need to dance and wear a mask and just be. So that's what belonging means to me.
Excellent. I hear from all of you guys, we're talking about what belonging feels like in Finland, and trying to find a sense of security, your own place within the society. And for all of us that have migrated to Finland, I think that we're all struggling to find our own places, or at least we have found spaces in which we can, as you say, show up 100% as ourselves. But how do you feel? What does belonging feel like for you here in Finland? Like, what does it feel like?
It feels like not having to edit myself. It feels like not having to think about where I'm going and thinking about how I'm gonna look around for my safety. It feels like community. It feels like peace, and I think that's what we're all looking for. We're just looking for peace within the places and the spaces and places that we go to, and even in our homes, because some people may feel at home, but maybe they don't feel belonging where they're from. So there's that dichotomy as well.
Interesting. And Angel, like, what does belonging feel like for you? Do you also share the same sentiments as Dorina?
I share most of the statements that were made. And to me, belonging feels like to be seen, to be loved, supported, and one also has to choose to belong, to feel a belonging. Yes.
That's good. I like how you said that one can choose to belong.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
Yeah.
I think in addition to that, and maybe I'll pass this over to Fatima, we can choose to belong somewhere. This is true. What about those moments when you don't feel like you've been chosen to partake in the spaces that you want to feel like you belong to? Like, what does that feel like? What does?
I feel like since belonging feels like home to me, it feels like home. Not belonging is the opposite. It's like being lost. And as someone who has background in both Finnish culture and in Somali, I almost felt like I'm not able to connect in anywhere. I'm not welcomed in any area for a long time. And I like that when you said that we need to create our own places. I really felt that, because when I felt like I was lost and I'm not able to connect in Somali communities or Finnish communities in anywhere, I felt like, okay, this is a sign for me to build my own and kind of invite other people to join me who might feel the same. So not being able to connect is almost like, I feel like it's the worst feeling a human being can experience, since our very essence is the need to be connected to others.
That's a very good point. Reggie, do you have anything to add?
Not a lot to add, but I would just build upon what Fatima is saying. The connecting piece is extremely important. Again, this whole belonging concept is part of our core beliefs and needs. Really, it's something we need to survive. And we can't be our best if we don't feel like we belong. And again, that's why when I was here in my early days, definitely was not feeling the love, was not feeling like I was belonging. And really thought, I could sit here and continue this, or I could make a choice to do something different. And I can start to reach out. And I got some good advice from a person that said that you have to network here. And so I'm on a personal mission really to kind of connect everybody with everybody, because I think we need these different circles of belonging. Some for work, some for friendship, some for partners, but all sorts of just different places where we connect. And I think the more that connections you have, the more enriched you are, the more you feel like you belong in many circles. And you can, quite frankly, sit at any table, or you can build the table and allow others to sit at it. And I definitely like that, build a table and let others sit there. And we kind of control the domains that we live in.
That's a very, very good response. The idea of building our own table so that we can sit around them. Good Hair Day is doing just that, and here we are, and it's an amazing thing. I really also want to touch on this because you mentioned networks. I have to say, my father always used to say to me, your network is your net worth.
Right.
And I really think that that's a true statement, and it brings me to the idea that, as we discuss about belonging, we also talk about fitting in. Do you think that there's a difference between belonging and fitting in? And what is that? Have you ever been in situations where you felt like you could fit in but maybe not necessarily belong, or vice versa? Or how do you guys experience that?
That is, what can I say, brings trauma. So I'll start with fitting in. Fitting in for me is having to maybe compromise yourself to be in a space or place so that you seem palatable, But then with belonging, it's just a given thing. You don't have to do anything. You're just accepted. And I feel like when it comes to the dichotomy or the mix of that, peer pressure is real. It doesn't matter what age you're at. There's always that thing or this nagging thing that you have to. If you don't have this, or you don't show up in a certain way, then you will not be accepted. And I think that's a struggle, especially for us living here in Finland and being of African heritage, or being of, let's just being Black, where it's like maybe some of us may feel that maybe we're too Black to be in certain spaces, or that our culture may overpower. Like some people may feel threatened by it, and that's when I feel like it's okay to allow people to be, because then that way it won't be a question of do you fit in or do you not, because at the end of the day, everyone has their story, and they're always going to bring something beautiful to the table, because if we're all the same, it would be a boring world, to be honest.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's really true. And you touched on a very important thing there, where you said that, sometimes maybe people might feel that certain aspects about you might be too strong and stuff like that, so you might need to kind of check yourself, or but do we really need to? Have you ever been in situations, Angel, where you felt like you need to kind of like compromise certain parts of yourself so that you can get into certain spaces or feel like you fit in?
As you said, Dorina, like there might be, but then you block them out. But then fitting in, you might try to fit a certain mold that has been put there by not good intentions, and yeah.
I understand what you mean. Yeah. That it's not necessarily a good thing to try and fit into certain spaces, because they're not necessarily always good for us neither.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that makes sense. Yeah. How do you feel about that, Fatima?
Wow, strongly. The fact that you said they're trying to fit in a mold, like I really felt that. And it's actually so funny to be here, because I recently cut all my hair, and I feel like my hair represented this unhealed part of me. I was straightening, like using the flat iron every day, and there's nothing wrong with that if it comes from love, if you like it. But for me, it came from fear. I feel like I wasn't able to be me to come to places as Fatima, but I needed to kind of trying to put myself in this mold of like how do Finnish people would view me, like white people. Because what happens when you lost the connection, when you don't have a strong connection to your roots, you start to really doubt yourself. And as someone who was kind of placed, I feel like I was placed by world in Finland, amongst white people, with a white mom, nothing able to kind of like feel my home, and everybody was telling me, you're not us. So you start to kind of like doubt, like, am I okay? So it felt like I was kind of like splitting myself half, like creating a persona for other people to see so that they won't hurt the inside of me. And now that I'm releasing that, and I'm here, like after this process, I'm like, okay, it's good that I'm here saying that out loud because it's process and it's happening.
It's a very interesting point. You know, talking about white gaze and how you know, kind of been navigating that space growing up as a person who's has a white parent and a black parent as well. I think in that same vein, I'll send this to Reggie. You find yourself most likely often as, you know, the only brown person in the room. And she just mentioned about the gaze, the white gaze. Have you ever experienced that? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, all the time. And I would say that I often have to fit in in the professional setting, right? I'm an IT guy. And so, yeah, I'm definitely often the only brown person in the room. And it's strange. Once you've been in that environment for a while, when someone says to you, I've had people tell me multiple times throughout my career, you're not black. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute. What what I know, their, you know, cognitive dissonance, whatever, is allowing them to see past what they think black is, right? And I don't fit the mold that they have for black, and I'm now more accepted for what they actually view as white. And that's not something I've ever tried to achieve. I just want to be effective in my professional career. And so, you know, and yes, definitely I'm sort of offended when it happens. And, you know, sometimes maybe in my, you know, less nice days, I've responded, if I want to date your daughter or if I'm trying to get a job, I'm black, right? That's the way, you know, that's where we draw the line. And so, you know, those things that happens all the time. And I would say even as an African American, we don't necessarily always have that sense of belonging. And I will tell you, you know, the first time I went to Senegal was the first where I was in sub-Saharan Africa. That's actually where I felt like I really belonged. And in Gambia and Nigeria and Tanzania and South Africa. So I think I may experience even my blackness different than other people do. And in that sense of belonging.
Wow, that's...
Can I add to that? I really need to quickly add to the point where you said white gaze kind of like views you differently. They kind of like reward, in a sense, all the white things they feel like are. And with me, I felt like I feel like if you don't have a strong community where you have people reminding you of who you are and how important it is to show up as you are, you kind of get lost. And for me, I feel like white gaze has always rewarded the white parts of me and kind of like told me that this is white. You talking like this is white. You being like this is white. You being gentle and you liking to dress certain way and liking certain things. This is white. And everything else is black. So you kind of separate those things. And it takes a lot for you to navigate and define the blackness, the who you are for you, and not let the other world define it for you. So yeah, I wanted to add that. That was really, yeah.
That's an excellent addition, actually.
Preach.
Yeah. Would you like to add something? No?
I was like, yes, girl.
Awesome. No, that's an excellent point. And honestly, I think that as you mentioned, like, you know, it's pretty easy for people that see that you are biracial to kind of like, you know, pick on the things that they think are more palatable. But as you started, as you said, because you've been going through this process for a long time, I also want to put this question back to you. How did you start finding your Africanness beyond within your household? Because what tends to happen is that minorities start creating smaller communities within themselves so that they can, you know, feed the identity and the culture amongst ourselves. How do you feel about that? How was that experience for you? And do you feel that there's any risks in there as well?
Well, it depends on the risks, but it's definitely hard. I feel like someone who came from a household where Somali roots weren't exactly celebrated, and my mom couldn't ever separate her own trauma from my identity. You kind of learn to hate. You kind of learn to associate everything that's negative about you in your Somali roots. And I feel like in Finland we have a lot of African communities, but I feel like Somalis are a bit more separated in there too. So it was like challenges over challenges over challenges, me reaching out to African communities and seeing that even as a Somali person, I'm not welcome there. And there's a lot of hate towards Somali people in African communities as well. And I kind of got into this point where I was like, this hurts so much that I will either go through this or I will let it kind of like end me. It was overwhelming. I felt like I needed to always perform for white guys, but at the same time, to my people, like my African community that I needed, I felt like I'm not enough, I'm not woke enough, I don't know how to cook African food, I don't know how to dance, I'm not able to be there. So after my kind of breakdown, I had this person who reached out to me, just one person, full Somali, who kind of like just guided me, just like showed me. And he told me this very beautiful thing. He told me like, I had a very hard relationship with my name, Fatima. I wanted to change this multiple times before. I was pretty young then, but what made me love my name was this Somali person reached out to me and told me how much Fatima means to him and what are the roots. And instantly I started to associate positivity to my Somalian roots. And in that healing came the, wow, this is amazing, thank you. I'm so thankful that I'm Somali. And before I was just like, I'm just half Finnish. That's how I told people, I'm half Finnish, I'm not Somalian. And after that, I started to tell people that I'm Somali and I love my name and see the value in it. But just one person reaching out really made a difference.
That's amazing. That's a really nice story. Did you find out what the name Fatima means?
Well, there's multiple meanings, but in Somali, it's for like protection, it's for love. It's in Islam, it's the daughter of Muhammad, and it's a very strong name. It's like a gift. He told me it's a gift to have that name, and no one has ever told me that.
That's amazing. That's great. I think that's an amazing story. I actually want to forward this to you, Angel, as well. Like, like I was saying, small communities are made to go into small communities, and to relate to what you were saying, that your Somali background, you experienced that there were challenges in trying to belong to that community as well, not only as a person who's mixed, but also in the broader context of other Africans. Angel, how do you feel about that kind of trying to find spaces within smaller spaces in the first place?
Yeah. The communities I belong to are black and gay. Yes. So like the subdivisions of the queer black community are welcoming they give you space to like find out who you are first before who you are for the world. And it is a long journey to like find where you belong, and when you do find that place, you want to like nourish it and grow with it while you're also growing as well.
Yeah. That's an amazing response. I also want to find out from you, like, have you experienced from a broader African perspective the idea that, you know, there's challenges with, for example, belonging to the LGBTQ community, that because, you know, traditions and cultures differ, and, you know, the view on that, have you also experienced similar challenges as Fatima?
It brings me back to choosing to belong. I am Ugandan, but I do not choose to belong to the Ugandan Finnish community because of the queer rights back there. So yes, it's not right to assume everyone like has the same mindset, but I need to first be strong for myself, and then I can explore, you know. Yeah.
I wanted to find out from you, Dorina, like, do you also, like, how do you experience, you know, the idea that we are often pushed into smaller communities, that there are challenges in belonging into those smaller communities, not only because of the fact that we're black, but also because within ourselves and within our cultures and traditions and histories, there are challenges in trying to kind of like change and you know, there's some, like, because I think that, maybe just to add into that space, you're a person who deals with wellness. And I don't know how much work you've been doing with the community. You've been doing a lot. Do you experience people that, you know, have challenges with wellness within the community for similar reasons as Fatima and Angel?
That is a very good question. I actually, with my work, I call myself a co-facilitator, so I assist people in facilitating their healing. And that is the emotional body, physical body, and the spiritual body. And I actually, predominantly, the people who come to me are black. And they may go through different trauma, because the thing that we don't understand, especially as women, is that trauma is held in the womb. And it's passed on from generation to generation. So when I work with people, it's all about finding out where's the mother wound, where's the father wound, where is, what is their triggers, and why is it so hard for them to be themselves? And then it comes a point when they realize that all the burdens, all their fears, all their anxiety actually comes from their parents. Because their parents maybe were struggling to be in the community, so then they decided to create a set way for them to live that they do not feel comfortable with. And that is the challenge with, I feel, the Finnish community, the Afro-Finnish community here, is that people come here and you bring your culture with you, but at the same time, it worked in your community back home. So you also have to figure out how you're going to navigate within this community, because certain aspects are that people here are very lonely. People are lonely, people feel like they're not being seen. Some people are suicidal. Some people don't have anyone to talk to. And from my experience also, when I was doing interpretation, is no shade to the psychologist here, but they do not understand the black experience. And they're not able to give someone advice in the way or understand their culture, because as people of black heritage, we have been taught to hold so many things, and we're always given the label, oh, strong person, strong this, strong that. But we want to be soft. We don't want to struggle. We don't want to be always talking about the struggle. And I find that really, because people are used to having the struggle, so then some people, when they have it easy, they feel guilty. And there's also that, some people experience the black tax thing, which is also part of the culture where you have to support. So it's like, when you're successful, you feel so guilty, and you're not feeling like you can show up 100% yourself, because you're like, okay, there's someone suffering there and stuff. But the thing is, if you start helping people when you're not balanced in yourself, then you're actually passing on your trauma to other people around you. So the most important thing I feel is that in the community and the people that I help, what I tell them is like, take care of you first. Take care of these wounds first, take care of that first, and then when you're feeling ready, then you're able to show up. And we do it in different steps, like maybe through journaling, maybe through healing sessions or all that stuff. But the most important thing is for people to feel. And the other thing is like, being black is not a monolith. Like, everyone has a different aspect of being black. And as Reggie said, when you show up to jobs and stuff, you're black. But I feel like Fatima said with her name, like, if people know what their names mean, it actually frees you up. Yeah. It makes you more powerful, because then you know what you stand for and how you're going to move forward in the community.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's an excellent way to cap that, this point. I think also, like, because, the idea that, blacks in the diaspora, belong to multiple different groups. You're either biracial, or you belong to, a second minority as a minority, or then that, you're struggling to find your place. I think I would like to send this to Reggie, and I'll take it from this, from Black Panther, the struggle between Black Panther and Killmonger. The discussion between Black Americans and Black Africans. And struggling to find yourself, or well, at least, the having to belong to multiple communities and the conflicts that you get within that. How have you experienced being a Black American, finding the African community and trying to exist in that as well? Have you had similar experiences, for example, with Fatima?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't know if I just kind of am not intelligent enough to feel a lot of these things. Sometimes I feel it, but sometimes I just like to really take the approach and build off of what Angel was saying. I choose to belong, right? I have seen, and one of the things that I actually hear when I've tried to pull together people from different African communities, and found that it wasn't so easy sometimes. And I've looked them in the face and said, look, I fought this in my own country, whether or not you were dark-skinned, light-skinned, you had good hair, you were from this education, or you were from that, and we had all of these segregated communities. I am not going to do this here. We don't have a large enough community. We have to work together, right? And I've had that conversation with several of my brothers and sisters from different African communities, and then they come together. And I've also heard them say, you don't mind who you work with. No, I don't. I think we need to be a safe base for all of us. We all need each other, right? We can't afford to let anybody fall by the wayside in such a small community. And so, yes, I have faced this. But again, people have even from the continent, when I go, and even the Finnish people, they'll ask, where are my roots? And I don't know as an African American. And I give them the explanation. I don't want to know, because that way I can choose to be Zimbabwean. I can choose to be Kenyan. I can choose to be Somalian. I can choose to be Ugandan, right? And immediately I feel like I belong.
That's an excellent way to look at it. I think that's a very good point to what you said, and also what Fatima was pointing out, that of course as a community we have struggles amongst ourselves, and I think similarly to the communities that we're trying to integrate into, it's also an issue of the fact that we just don't know enough about each other to be able to understand that there are no differences amongst each other, and the only way we can get there, as you say, is to unite and to take these things further as one. We're not that many in this country to be choosing that I want to hang out with only people from my country. Yeah. I'll put this to Fatima. You mentioned the idea that there's multiple layers and you've been going through this and that. I wanted to find out from you, do you feel like there are levels of belonging? Like, spaces where you can be like, okay, in this space, all is well. And then in the other spaces, like, I'm cool over here, but there's something a little bit missing. How do you feel?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there are layers, and it's really important to understand that all the issues with belonging has to do with how our world is built right now, and everything is connected. So we have to ask ourselves, is it normal that so many people are suffering emotionally in this capitalistic world, which builds competition? So I feel like competition is the biggest enemy to real connection because it stems from fear. And right now, with everything that's going on, everybody's so fearful. And instead of reaching out and connecting, they start to look outwards and see what the world is paying attention to. And right now, the world is paying attention to money, to cold values, to being louder, to going anywhere and just like running towards everyone, not caring how you make others feel. So in order to start to really heal the community and the world, it starts, like you said, with yourself. Because you need to feel the trauma and what this world has done to you. And once you start to heal the wounds of your background, you're able to, your very like being will bring healing to everywhere.
Excellent. Dorina, do you feel also that there have been, like with the people that you deal with, what kind of signals are you getting from there? Like, are there any obstacles like what kind of obstacles people experience in terms of like trying to find spaces to belong to?
The main obstacle that I've noticed with everyone is the anxiety, and there's the poverty mindset as well. Because I feel like in the community, it's everyone, or people are told that you're only supposed to be in these spaces and places. We see you as cleaners, we see you as nurses, like we don't want to see you in any other spaces. So for them, it is that thing of finding the confidence that they deserve wealth. They deserve to build a legacy. They deserve to actually speak their mind, because also they don't feel like they're able to speak, because they're like, if I speak, who's gonna listen? So what I've noticed with them is that some of them are really lucky to have friendships that are allyships that actually speak for them. But it would be good to actually have spaces where we can be heard without having to use allies, in that sense. So that's the biggest challenge that I've seen, like the running thing that I've seen with the people that I work with. But on a personal level, I feel like it's, there's, like, especially in Finland, there are, I guess, 4 types of communities. There's the people who are born here, people who came as refugees, then there are those who immigrated here, and then there are those who came to study and work, so then like 4. But then the thing at the end of the day that I've noticed is sometimes it's all about, there's colorism, there's texturism, all these things. So then it kind of, we say that we're a community, but at the same time, it's like if you're in a certain position of power, why is it that you find it okay not to speak about these people who are in lower positions? Because the thing that I find really uncomfortable, and I noticed it especially last year, was seeing these Waltz servers, the people who deliver the food, some of them looked like they could be as old as my dad. So it was kind of painful seeing people like them who should be retiring and enjoying their retirement, but because they do not have that financial freedom to rest. And I thought that was really sad. So I feel like if we're gonna like when it comes to belonging and when it comes to being a community, we should look out for the older generation, because in my old neighborhood, there was this old Somali lady who was struggling with her shopping, and I'm like, she shouldn't be carrying shopping like that. Like, it really made me feel really bad. So I would say that that's one of those things that bug me. Yeah.
That's a very good point. Thank you for that. Angel, what has been your biggest obstacle to feeling like you've been belonging? And if you, and also I think I would also like to add in that question that what have you personally done to ever make somebody else feel more comfortable or feel like they belong?
I'm part of the ballroom community in Finland, and it's still an ever-growing one. Since it's still growing, there are only a few BIPOC people there, so whenever I try to see someone who like clearly should be part of the community, I make it my mission to like invite them to all the hangouts that are possible. And the biggest obstacle, well, not the biggest, but like one of them, to belonging, I didn't have anything, so I wanted to learn about what the obstacles could be. Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks. I think maybe I'll bounce this off to Reggie from a professional perspective. Belonging. So, if we talk about ontological security, which comes with a sense of belonging, which gives somebody the idea of having like a continuous sense of themselves and finding their own place in society, one of the major things in that is your identity, your professional identity. And I think one of the biggest hurdles that, for example, the brown and black community in Finland has been experiencing is, the hurdle of belonging into the correct job, the correct workplace. You are in the IT sector. What do you think, for example, because I know there's a lot of IT guys that are doing, as you mentioned earlier, Walt, or they're doing other jobs that are not in that profession that they should be in. How do you think that that's something that how can we deal with that as a community?
When I actually moved to Finland, I had been working for one of Finland's largest companies. It's pretty much number one now. I was the global head of IT operations. So reporting to the CIO, working with all the C-level executives. And I took a couple years off to be with my young son, and I thought I won't have a problem finding a job once I get out, or once I decide to go back to work. And I was really wrong. I faced the same issues that everybody faced. People just weren't even returning calls. They were not answering CVs. They were not doing anything. And not only had I worked with one of Finland's largest companies, I've worked for Accenture, I've worked for large-scale system integrators from the US. So, and I don't mean this arrogantly, but my CV is not bad. And I couldn't get a call back. And I had to figure, and that I knew then, and I have this theory that Finns don't hire and they don't buy from people they don't know. And it feels very racist, but it's even different than that, because they treat Finns the same way. Finns that repatriate back into Finland, they don't have a network, they don't get the same hire. Their resume won't immediately be excluded because they don't have a Finnish name. They don't have to go through the language barrier that I have to go through. So they still have a better, they're in a better situation. So my recommendation, or at least then I knew I had to build my name, because in Finland, I didn't have a name in the IT community, right? Because I worked in the US, I worked in London, and I worked in Brussels. I came to Finland a lot, but that was to work with the internal teams. It wasn't to work with most of the Finnish IT community. And so I had to build a brand, and that's when I started my own company, and just network out of everything just to get my name out there. Yeah. And so that's my recommendation really to everyone. You have to get your name out there. Because if you're just a faceless sheet of paper with the non-finished names, next, you're going into the trash can.
That's a very good point. And it's something that I also experienced. Luckily, as you say, you have to build your name and you have to network and you really have to do the groundwork for this. And I think that that's a good segue now into like our last part of this discussion, where to end on a positive note, I think I would like to touch on the idea of hope and belonging. And I would just like to hear from you guys. What do you hope for the future? What do you hope for the wider community? What do you hope for the wider Afro-Finnish community in terms of them finding their belonging, not only amongst ourselves, but also in the broader community, within a European context or within a global context? Anybody?
Can I quickly add to your...
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your advice was to go out there and get your name out. And while I feel like that's important, it's important for people to really reach out. But at the same time, as someone who works with companies, and Finnish companies with the diversity and racism issues we have, it's not about you, it's not about anyone reaching out, it's the way this country is. We have so much work to do in this area. So if anyone is feeling a bit tired and kind of like hopeless, not feeling that I'm actually not able to reach out, it's not your job to do, it's for me, activism and this work that I'm doing with the diversity consulting, it's not my passion. But I feel like someone who gets those places and is listened by these people, I really need to bring these issues to light, to say that there's racism, there's discrimination, and not in work area, in every area. And in Finland, we have very strong roots in the way we treat our Romani people. So Romani people won't even be able to get houses. And I know the similar issues that African communities face. It's just like not being able to have a chance in anything. And that builds fear. So if someone feels tired and is like, I'm not gonna reach out, that's okay. It's okay to feel tired. This is not your job to do. It's us who have the platform and the resources that I do have. I know that even though it's not my passion to be there talking to old white men about discrimination, it's just a thing that needs to be done. So in order to hope part is that reach out, but it's okay to do it at your pace. It's okay to say that I'm not able to do this anymore, and it's okay to ask and reach out for help, but please do it in communities that you feel safe in. And your intuition is the key. If you go to therapy and you feel off, that's a message. Listen to that. Yeah.
Thanks for adding that. I think that's a very important point. And I think also it kind of links to that you guys that have platforms and that have tools and resources to help. I would also just want to touch base on something that you mentioned earlier. You talked about intergenerational transfer of trauma. And what's your point of view on that issue? And what do you think how is that affecting the community, and what kind of tools can what kind of tools does the community need to be dealing with that, or to start dealing with that?
Okay, so my personal story is my dad, he didn't come from a family that was wealthy, and he worked his way up to be where he is, and it's because of him that I'm here. So I did witness, as much as he was successful, I did see his guilt. And through that, and witnessing other family members as well, I did realize that we shared some form of trauma of not having enough. And when I explored it and I was talking to other communities and other people as well, they also felt the same thing. And when it comes to trauma, sometimes there are also people who come from a refugee background. We will never ever understand the trauma of witnessing your whole family being killed. We will never understand the trauma of having to live in fear and not knowing whether you're going to be awake tomorrow. So this is the reason why I ask people to be gentle with themselves, because the trauma that we may be carrying may not be ours. So if you come from a family background where there is that maybe running for your life, then when you're here, sometimes you may feel anxious, you may be wondering, you always feel like you're being chased or there's not enough time, and that is like a sign that is, because you are in a safe environment now, that is a sign that is passed on trauma. And it's witnessed in people who are short-tempered, people who get angry very easily, people who backlash, because it's like there's some pain within them that they're not able to, an anguish that they're not able to articulate. And in that sense, when it comes to the community in general, we need to sit down and hold spaces and have these conversations of why we feel, why we have this poverty mindset, why we get angry, why we're not able to communicate in a most gentle way, and that will assist people to move forward in peace, because we didn't come here to suffer.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's very. I think that's very necessary information for all of us to understand, because we all have different backgrounds and probably carrying many layers of trauma. But in addition to that, like, I just wanted you to comment briefly, because we're also running out of time, to comment briefly on what's your take on intergenerational cultural transfer, and how do you think that could be used by the community positively too?
I always say take what works for you and leave what doesn't. And especially here in Finland, I would say what we should take is that part of community that is loving, where people lift each other up. And that part where people use certain words to shame other people, we should leave that behind. Because I feel like shame is that thing that actually makes all of us feel some type of way. So if we could just drop shame, we would be fine.
That's good. I think this has been an amazing discussion, and I think I'm walking away with a lot of new information and a lot of knowledge about all of the things that you guys are doing, but also the spaces that you're walking in, the spaces where I may need to call one of you guys if I need some help, or to also help other people. But just before we wrap up, just a short statement on what you guys hope for the future, for the community in general.
I'll start. What I hope for the community is that we would come together and just make sure that we are soft with each other, because all of us go through a lot of trauma or many things that we don't speak of. So if we could meet people at a space where we're just gentle with other people, and I think that's what I hope, that we wouldn't look at each other with suspicion. That's what I'd hope for.
To the future belonging, I have a similar statement is that don't stop learning and evolving.
I would hope to have more Black joy in Finland, more parties, cookouts, just like things that really brings us together, because I feel like there is a lot of shame in expressing our cultures, and we feel like we don't fit in Finland, so we have to go towards that fear and kind of like face it with joy and courage. So places like this are extremely different, so I'm hoping more of this, more of Black joy.
Thanks.
Oh, actually, got so caught up in what everybody else was saying, I lost a few words. What do I hope for? One, that we can, and this builds off of what Dorina was saying, I usually use the words that we provide a safe base for each other. And that's sort of this soft thing that you're referring to. And once we feel like we have a safe base, then, only then can you explore, right? People always explore from a safe base. So I personally would like to be a safe base for anybody. People can reach out to me. If I can help, I help. If I can't, I probably know somebody that can. Right.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys very much. This has been an amazing discussion on belonging. I really appreciate all of your input. For those of you guys that would like to share your contact information with the community, I'm pretty sure that the collective will put that information up. But on behalf of Good Hair Day, thank you for watching, and this has been our conversation on belonging.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.